but no mic and no camera. All right, well, it is past 1 p.m. So I never really like to take the thunder from Professor Bello, but I do see that our guest is ready, and I want to be very respectful of her time because I know she is a very busy woman. So let me introduce to everyone our guest for today's session, Queen Diambi. I don't want to mess up your last name, Queen, so I will allow you to introduce yourself as well.
Yes, hello everyone, greetings, Otep, mbote na bino nyonso, sak passe. So, I am Queen Diambi Kabatusuila Tshiyamba, Mukalenga Mukaji wa Nkashama, wa Bakwa Luntu, wa Luba, wa Kasaï, wa Congo. So that would be my name and title. It's basically say that I'm Queen Diambi. I'm a female king of the Order of the Leopard, this meaning that I sit on the throne of the Bakwa Luntu people of the Luba Empire of the now Democratic Republic of Congo. Of course, those are new countries, and my kingdom is the Luntu people. And you will notice also that we are not kings of a land, we are of a people. So land do not belong to us, land belongs to the Creator. We are just passing through, and we are, kings and queens of people. So I'm the queen of the Luntu. I was also crowned last year as a queen mother of the African descendants of Brazil in Salvador de Bahia. I received the Taradiente Medal of Honor, the highest medal of honor of Brazil in the parliament. I was also, of course, crowned after in other communities in Brazil, in Minas Gerais, in Sao Paulo, and in Rio de Janeiro by the indigenous, people of Brazil, of the Amazon, as queen of the jaguar. Since I am a leopard, as you can see, but my brothers of the Amazon recognized me and also crowned me there. So, and the crowning only means just more responsibilities, basically. So, so I'm very happy to be here. I consider myself to be a daughter of Queen Mother Professor Bello, because I learned a lot from her work and from her guidance and leadership. And I'm very proud to be here with my family, because I consider all of us being part of a family. We are not here by chance. We are here by cosmic design to accomplish whichever mission that we have set and we have chosen to come and see manifested here. So I'm very, very honored to be in the presence of every single one of you, and to have our path cross. And I will see that I can do the best I can to bring my contribution to this discussion, to hopefully make a change or make a difference in the world. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Well, we are all honored to have you here with us and gracing us with your presence. And thank you for sharing your time with us. And I do believe that our Queen Mother, Professor Bello, is now on the webinar. Are you there, Ma?
Yes, I am. Thank you. Greetings to all. Alafia, Hotep, Assalamu alaikum. All the family across the planet, we greet you all. Welcome to another session of Bayyinah and Friends. As you already know, we're receiving today a queen, a crown queen from the continent, with quite an experience, quite a biography. But we'll look at all that a little later. But right now, let's go about the business of getting ourselves together. Let's start off right with our breathing exercise. To remind us, breath, the unseen material element, is key to keeping us alive. Breath is given to us divinely It is cared for automatically by divine structure. But we have to invest efforts. We have to invest consciousness. We have to invest determination. We have to invest ourselves in ensuring that our breathing is well, is enough, is proper. So let us sit real straight, vertebrae properly aligned. Our arms could rest on our thighs and knees. Our feet flat as much as possible, flat on the ground. And then we're going to do take 7 deep breaths together. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, hold. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Relax. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, hold. Breathe out through the mouth. Breathe out, breathe out. Relax. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, hold. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Relax. Breathe in through the nose, breathe in through the nostrils, breathe in, hold. Breathe out through the mouth, breathe out, breathe out. Relax. We're taking those last 2 breaths to connect to cosmos and ancestors. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, hold. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Relax. Breathe in, breathe in, breathe in, hold. Breathe out, breathe out, breathe out. Thank you. Thank you very much. We've done our duty towards our body, towards our cosmic body, towards all the bodies that we've used in our various journeys on the earth. And now we're going to look at the most important information to ourselves, which is a poem written nearly 5,000 years ago by our ancestor, Ethiopian philosopher Amun-Hotep. And the title of this text is Freedom. And the Queen and I will be reading, each one taking 1 paragraph. So, Queen, please start.
I am really sorry, my dear, but it's written so small I cannot see. So I'm going to let you do the reading, please. It's really too small for me.
All right, no problem.
Thank you.
Freedom? Our first mistake was that we thought of freedom as a place rather than the continuation of a struggle. Tyranny never sleeps. I like it when we do it too. France, you do it with me?
Our second mistake was that we thought of freedom as a goal rather than as a launching pad from which to reach our goals.
Without purpose, freedom hardly matters.
Our third mistake was that we thought that freedom would make us free. That, however, is license, not freedom at all.
Freedom is being shackled to identity, purpose, and direction, and being in constant pursuit. Amunotap, 5,000 years ago, inviting us to reflect on the most important thing in our life, freedom. Without freedom, we can't even establish purpose. Because we can only, without freedom, do what they tell us to. Only free people can establish purpose. So, Queen Diambi, please tell us what you think of what we've read. What does that text bring to you?
Yes, Queen Mother, I'm very honored to be in your presence as always. If you allow me, before we continue, I just want to do the pouring of libation to the ancestors. I know that you have put a video before, but I don't know if anybody did the libation live before I came in. So I joined in about a minute before 1 o'clock.
Go ahead, we're happy. Yes.
So,
and since we are in the week where we're celebrating Dessalines, we're doing this libation with a special thought for our liberator. Please go right ahead.
I suggest that when we gather, or when we even get up in the morning, to add the libation process into our prayers, and we don't always have to be outdoor to do it. What I have found is a very interesting trick. I use a clay pot and I pour some water in the pot, and then when I can go out, then I'll bring the pot outside and I'll just pour it on the ground. So this is just a symbol that we always do to make sure that we align each other and we align the energy, and we can manifest what we came to do in here together today. And it's to be grateful to life itself, as our Queen Mother has led us to a beautiful breathing practice, which is really connecting us with the breath of our existence itself. And the water also symbolizes life, because we all come out of water. Our planet is made out of water. We are made out of water. And even the droplets we talk about today with the COVID-19 is all about water. So our words are imbued with water, and our breath is imbued with water. So water is the source of life. It's also a symbolism of purity. Of course, we can cleanse anything with water. The second thing is, of course, water is very flexible, adapt to any circumstances, like we have done it, like our forefathers and ancestors have done, so that we can be here today. They have gone through so much trials and tribulations and so much abuse and so much different things, but yet again, they found the agility to survive and to make sure that they carried life forward. And the last one, but not the least, I think it's the strength of water. When you torment water enough, water becomes, unbeatable, and become, can rise to really destroy. So what we want to do is to make sure that we appease the water of this planet, we appease the water within us, and we appease the water within the cosmos, so that it doesn't rise against us. So this is why I'm going to pour libation with water, but I'm going to call on to the ancestors of all the people who are present today, all the people that made it possible for us to be here today. I'm going to call on all the ancestors of all the ones that we commemorate, all the ones who are going to see the show eventually later on, and that made the manifestation of our intention of doing well, to do good, be here today with us. So I'm just going to pour libation, so you can think or call your ancestors if you want. So I'm just going to call the primordial ancestors, the primordial waters, which is the noon in our tradition, where we all emanate from. So I'm pouring libation to honor that. I'm pouring libation to all the beings that have come and preceded us, so this life can be manifested. I'm pouring libation for all the human ancestors that have been here before us, so we can be here today and in this special space. I'm pouring libation to all the ancestors of all the people present here today. I'm pouring libation for all the ancestors who have inspired us, who have gone to the other side and have inspired us, like Baba Desalegn, for all the work that they have done so we can work our path to liberation and freedom, as we spoke in this poem. I pour libation to my own head, my own ancestors, and all my lineage, and I pour libation for all the spirits manifested here that I have not called in this prayer. Ashe, Ashe, protect to all the ancestors. Thank you so much for this. Ashe. So now that we are aligned and we recognize, that we are, moved by the spirits who have made us who we are, I am very, very honored again to be here in the presence of all of you and, of course, the ancestors of all dimensions. This poem, of course, goes very deep into my heart. First of all, to understand that 5,000 years ago, we had, elders that were doing, reflecting on such complex, ideas such as freedom. What it is, those questions are still of actuality today. And our ancestors already made reflections on that and already came up with a sets of, rules and way of being and practices that will implement our ability to be free or to feel free. Because freedom is a state of being. It's not something that we have to go towards. So in that poem, it's really telling us that freedom is within. Freedom is how we feel about how we are manifested in this earth. So and it's also very relevant in the actualities, because we know that Africa has lost the historical initiative about 3,000 years ago when the Assyrian invaded Kemet and finally struck a very lethal blow to the entire Kemetic civilization. And from then on, we know the rest of the history. Africans have always been very resilient and have reinvented themselves over and over throughout the millenniums. And now we are here again, and we are still faced with extreme challenges when it comes to our sovereignty of our just even our beingness. We know that our life is threatened in so many ways, not only in a physical alienation, but spiritual alienation, cultural alienation, and all kinds of repression of our liberties to exist on this planet and as African people. So I think this poem is absolutely relevant in that sense, and it also gives us an insight to our own capability, because if 5,000 years, this is what our ancestors are doing. These are the things, the themes that they are reflecting on. What does that tell us about who we are? Because since we are only the ancestor manifested, I am only here because of all the people who have preceded me and have inspired them as well. So that means that we hold a sacred and very abundant body of knowledge, of wisdom that we have to tap into and to explore in order to find solution to the current problems that we are faced with. So that would be my take on this particular question.
Thank you. I'd like to go back to the second paragraph. The second paragraph says, tyranny never sleeps. What does that tell you?
Well, when our ancestors understood the cosmic laws, it's very clear that there is a pull and a push. For a pull to exist, there have to be a push. For a push to exist, there have to be a pull. Or for the night to exist, there have to be a day. So we have to be conscious that in every aspect of our life, whatever we will do to promote something, there will be maybe equal force, to promote the contrary of it. This is a very fundamental law of the universe. To everything there is its contrary. But we have to choose which one we want to manifest. And tyranny is something that has existed from the beginning of time, because conflicting interests are in play. And today we can see it manifested in so many ways. If I just want to focus on the African continent and the people of African descent all over the world, we know that we are living in an extremely tyrannic environment, because not only the resources of our continent are so coveted, they are so looked for, and every type of policy of maneuvers or action to make sure that there is an exploitation of our resources in Africa, with disregarding the benefit of the people who are actually from there, is a form of tyranny. The simple fact that we cannot express ourselves the way we want, in the sense that African culture has been repressed for so long, and that we have been taught that our own culture was not valid and was obsolete and had nothing good in it. The simple fact that our identity is being attacked constantly, it's part of a system that will come against what we are trying to manifest. So tyranny is there, and we cannot do anything to prevent it from existing. However, we have tools to imbue ourselves with the power to exist with it, and always do our own push to push the limits of tyranny further and further from our own manifestation. So what I believe is that we have to be vigilant. That's what tyranny, or for me, that sentence says, that we always have to remain vigilant, to recognize that no matter our intention that we place out there, we will always have some kind of resistance from opposite force, and that doesn't have to stop us from doing what we have to do. We have to continue pushing, and we have to continue anchoring ourselves so that to manifest exactly what it is that we are.
Thank you, Queen. All right, before we go any further, let's look a little bit at Fondation Félicité and how to keep in touch with us. Thank you, France. All right, Fondation Marie-Claire Rose Félicité Bonheur des Salines exists for 21 years now. You can get in touch with us via Instagram. Our YouTube channel is working. We're working at it, and it's becoming more and more alive. We're working, and we need your help to subscribe so that we can reach the right energy and be able to do the official opening of that channel. So we're counting on you to subscribe to the channel so we can, as we build it. To contact Fondation Félicité, 509-2940-0869. You can contact our Fondation there about all this week in particular, since we are in the process of realizing, under extremely complex situation, the celebration of Jean-Jacques Dessalines' 262 birthday. And we need the help of everyone to do it right and get things done in the proper way. You can also contact us via the website, www.fondationfelicite.com. And to contribute, you can contact us via PayPal, pourfondationfelicite@gmail.com. And in advance, I say a big thank you. So let's go back to our Queen Diambi, and let's get into who she is. Now, can you tell us who is this woman before even the Queen? Let's get to know the lady behind the Queen.
Yes, thank you. So I am Diambi Kabatusuila. I was born in Belgium from a father from Congo who was a student in Belgium and started a new career as a diplomat in Belgium, and married my mother, who is a European woman who is from Belgium. So I come out of a mixed marriage and a mixed cultural environment. But after I was born, and 6 months later, I was in the Congo DRC, and this is where I grew up most of the time, until I was a young woman. So I left Congo when I was 16 years old. So all my formative years happened in the Congo. So I'm a Kinshasa girl. I lived in the city of Kinshasa, And so I didn't know much about, African culture because, we live it. So we don't really, care for it as like it's something, outside of us. However, of course, I couldn't fail but notice that, the most of the aspiration of the people of the continent is really to supposedly develop. And in the development, I put it in quote because there is underlying statements that says to be more westernized. That's why really development, means, in covert words. During colonization, they used to call it evolved, evolved. But we will return to that a little later. So of course, it was the more Europeanized you were, you had the lifestyle, the more European lifestyle you had, the better you were, and the better you could advance in the social and economic ladder as well. So I also noticed that because I was mixed, sometimes I would have either preferential treatment because the whiter you are, the better treatment you get, until you are completely white, and then everybody, reverse you and respect you. But kind of like being an in-betweener at the time, I would, people would assume that I came from, I suppose, money, which was not the case at all. My father was somebody that came from a village in Kasaï. He was born during colonization in 1942. So he underwent all his life until about 17 years old under colonization. So he's very formatted in the way that indeed for an African to be worth something, he has to adopt the ways of the West and let go of everything of his tradition and his history, because there was really nothing good in it. Because they didn't teach them anything good about the traditions, about the history of Africa, but only that they were a defeated people and nothing of their culture was worth it. And so they had to move on and adopt the ways of the West in order for them to become evolved human being, not fully human being like the white man, but at least close enough to behave like a European. So my father, strong of that background, cultural education, went to Europe to study. After independence, he was one of the first people to go with scholarship to Europe. And of course, not surprisingly, having a white woman was also something of, of substance to kind of acquire some status by having a white woman by your side. And it's almost like, un pied de nez to colonization, saying, okay, those were the forbidden fruits to us Black men, and now we can, indulge and have a white spouse. So I believe that in the psychology, even if it's not on the conscious level, it was there in your conscious level. So, but luckily enough, my mother, adapted very well in Africa, and she really loved the culture. She spoke the language, she cooked the food. She was really very open to receive. So I was lucky on that sense that she wasn't closed-minded. So I was not raised in a way where some other mixed children are mixed, where Africa is kind of like, oh, leave that alone, and you are better than the others. So I grew up in a regular neighborhood where blue collars and lower level employees live. It was the best time of my life. For over 10 years, I grew up in Congo, and I was just with the regular folks, and I learned so much, and I spoke the language of the land. I lived just a regular life. However, when I left Congo because of political turmoil and my father being a high civil servant, I had to live in Europe. And I really hated Europe. I didn't like it at all. I used to go on vacation to visit my mother's family, but I really didn't like it. And also, this is when the first time I started to understand the disdain or the contempt like the European really had for African and for African people as a whole, because I never really experienced racism in the Congo because white people are considered to be superior, so there's no racism against them. Mixed people are kind of like in the between, so I never really had harsh treatment. Yes, when I was a kid, people call me white because I was lighter skin, but after 2 or 3 days, I was done, and I was just one, just like everybody else. But so when I got to Europe 16 years to live in Europe was really harsh, because I started to realize that everybody was kind of curious where I came from, and I started to see all the stereotype highlighted in the media and in the way people were asking me questions about me, about Africa, and so forth. So I just adapted, because of course I was very comfortable in my own skin, so I didn't have an issue to know if I was white or black. I know I was black, I was African, so there was no issue there, and I knew that I had a home, and Congo was my home. So I adapted easily. Then the next big movement come into the fact that I come to the United States. And in the United States, I'm confronted with something quite interesting, because I now meet my family of this side of the ocean, of the other side of the ocean. And I start getting involved into understanding their experience as being people who were deported from Africa. It has to be clear that in Africa, the story of our people is not told. Okay, so many people think that, you know, Africans are still living today with understanding how wounded they are, because they have you know, bled. A lot of children were taken from Africa. This is a story that has been basically almost shut down. Once the slave you know, trade was abolished, or I would call it more the human trafficking era was abolished by the human traffickers themselves, because they saw no more interest in doing so. They now colonized and basically created in sub-Saharan Africa a gigantic forced labor camp. So we were in the same system as, you know, our brothers and sisters were on the other side of the ocean. But then at the same time came a complete repression about our memory. So a memorial repression where we could not even talk about what had happened before. So there was no preservation of the history of what had happened to our people. So we had to just go along, and we had to fight for our own survival. And we had to focus on just surviving. And if people understand the history of Congo during that period, right after human trafficking had stopped from the continent to the New World, started the exploitation of the rubber in the DRC and ivory. And our people were taken hostage and put in forced labor camp. And our country became a forced labor camp. And we lost 12 million lives just during that period. And so it was a really brutal reign, and that didn't allow people for doing, you know, like introspection and even passing on the information about the ancestors and what had happened in the Congo, where, you know, 40% of the people who were taken away from Africa actually came from, and were the initial deportees came from the Congo. So we didn't have time to understand the scope of what had happened to us already, because we were dealing with that. Then we have colonization that will now impose the curriculum for school. And even today in Africa, we are still operating under the curriculum that the colonial powers left behind. So our curriculum has not really included much talk and much you know, information about what had happened to Africa for the past eight centuries, between the Eastern human trafficking period from the Arab you know, route to the Western human trafficking episode of the Western countries. So I grew up there. I went to school for many years until high school, and I really never learned anything about, you know, Congo being a place where people were taken away. It was kind of known, but on a very dim notion that there was indeed sometime markets that of the tipo market, for instance, in the Congo, where people were being sold and bought. So I really didn't know much about the history. I first started to know about this history when I saw the TV show Racine, Roots. And this is when my first encounter really with the history of my people, you know, that I didn't know about. So when I came to the United States, then I met with the descendants of this family, of all these Africans that were, you know, kidnapped and deported and brought here to work in forced labor camp. So now that was a clash, because they were looking at me to find themselves in me, in my African experience. And I was looking to them and say, you know, I don't understand, help me understand. And at the same time, I was learning, and I was seeing that we had so many things in common. So the United States is really where I became an African woman. when I left Congo or Zaire at the time, I was a Zairian, I was a Congolese. And in the Congo, I was a Luba. And in the Kasaï, I was a Luntu. So, you know, I could break down my identity to all these levels, but I became Africa once I came to this country, because the drive of the African people on this side of the ocean is absolutely amazing and breathtaking. The force with which they are demanding, you know, the restoration of the African identity is absolutely inspiring. And I think that the concept of Africa itself, that we know it today, the Pan-African concept, is a concept that came from the children descending from this side of the African experience. So then when I was confronted with that, I realized that I had a lot of lag in my understanding and in my even conceptualization of what it was to be an African. So I started to study, I started to do a lot of research, and I was lucky enough to be introduced to great elders like Professor James Small, where I started to follow his lectures. I started to follow the lectures of other elders like, you know, Clark, Professor Clark, Professor Benyokanan, Professor, you know, Jeffries, and all these wonderful people, and reading beautiful books like, you know, the ISIS papers and the Cheikh Anta Diop and so many more. And I started to become, you know, almost like it was a rebirth of my own, a part of myself that I had almost denied, because the African parent in me was always the one that they were asking to shush and say, you know, you are already lucky enough to be half European. How about you express that instead of, you know, the one who is the poor parent of your combination. So that gave me a breath of air, a breath of fresh air, a breath of oxygen to really understand the heritage that I was coming from. And from then on, I just stayed the course. Although I went to school in New York, I did you know, business, finance, and economics. I went back to live in Europe as an economic consultant, and then I came back again in the United States with my family to raise my 2 sons and you know, raise a family. And one thing led to the other, and I started to be interested in reconnecting with my own culture here in Florida. And as the closest I could get to the Congo was Cuba and Haiti and people from the Yoruba tradition. And this is how I went into learning the spiritual system of the Yoruba people. And I really find a lot of correlation between that and between my understanding of what I grew up to see in Congo. So there was a lot of resonance and a lot of similarity. And after I went to that path, I was initiated to priesthood of Obatala. And then from then on, so many things unveiled. And eventually I had to go back to the Congo, where I was initiated into the Order of the Leopard and was crowned, you know, Queen of the Bakwa Luntu people, and sat on the throne as a queen, Mukalenga Mukaji Nkashama, which is the queen, female king of the Order of the Leopard. So it was a long process. And of course, there is a lot of details in every single phase, and especially the phase why a woman who is mixed and then doesn't live in the Congo, and is a female, is going to sit on the throne that is usually reserved for a man for a specific reason, not because men and women are not equal in Africa. This is not the case. In our traditions, we are totally equal, but we are not similar, and we understand, you know, the difference and why they are. But women are the representation of power already. So women don't have to sit on the throne. The throne is a representation of authority. So power sits, authority is one thing and power is the other. Of course, it's an interconnection, and they have to work in balance together in order to make sure that we manage communities in appropriate ways. But in my case, it was overdue that I had to sit on the throne, because my father initially refused the responsibility, because my father was of that school of thought that, you know, it's better leaving behind everything that is from our tradition, everything that is from our original identity. So because he refused, the elders asked that somebody from his house take the throne, because, you know, it was designed to be like that. You know, we have different royal homes, and it was the turn of my father's royal home to carry on with the crown and the throne of our people. And since my father didn't want it, he said, well, look for somebody else. And I think my father maybe envisaged that they were going to pick one of his nephews and, you know, a male from the lineage. And when it came to me, after a couple of very tedious investigations and oracle readings, it came that I was the one who was, the crown had chosen my head to sit on. And I had no clue whatsoever when I left the United States to go visit my father in the Congo. And we went for the first time in my life where my father was actually born. It was a surprise to me. I had no clue. They kept everything secret until I got there. And the coronation is not like, you know, they're preparing you and they're saying, oh, you're going to be a queen. No, none of that. They observe you. They vet you for quite some time. In my case, it was 7 years before they decided that they will sit the throne, the crown on my head. And then when I got there, I didn't even know what was going on. I just saw that there was a commotion around me. People were kind of agitated and looked very happy. And my name, Diambi, is actually the name of Queen Diambi, my great-grandmother who was queen, along on the side of King Tshiyamba, who is the king from whom I hold my royal lineage. She was queen, and then apparently they said that I was her returned, and this is why I have a better understanding of what ancestor mean. And people who actually know her and met her remembered her through me. So I became, you know, the reincarnation or the incarnation of another manifestation of the Queen Diambi, which means the bearer of good news. So this is now my promise to bring good news to my people, and I accepted the responsibility of taking care of my people. And as I said at the beginning of this show, I am not queen of a land, of Congo or Dimbelenge or Kasaï. No, I'm a queen of people. And so a kingdom of people is malleable. It breathes also just the way we breathe. It grows, it retracts. It depends on the population. And also I am just there to serve. And it's not just my people of the Kasaï region, it's anyone who comes in my path so that I can be of service, because this is what the divine principle does. It puts us together so we can help each other. So I am a servant beyond anything, and I've dedicated my life to serve you know, people, and especially to make sure that the experience that I've had in awakening and reconnecting with my true identity as an African woman is an experience that I share with others. So maybe that could be inspiring so that others can understand the value and the strength that they have in this immaterial and absolutely amazing African heritage of thousands and thousands of years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now let's look at some of the lessons. The queen poured things out. The river just ran down. Okay, so let's identify a few specific elements so that those of us who are in similar situations, we can capture what we need to carry on and be. So number one, we could see that from the time she was 16, she's been living in other places than Africa. But did that break her away? Did that make her not be who she is? No. She lived in Europe, she lived in Africa, but everywhere she went sort of confirmed for her that here is who I am. Aha. Oh, there are my people here in America. Oh, I didn't know about that. So yeah, Africans are here too. So I can, you know, I go to Brazil. Yes, Brazil. I find my people here again, and I can connect. And, you know, as I listened to her, I thought of Abu Bakari too, who left Mali with an expedition to go and meet new people. And when he got to the Olmec people, he had made arrangement with his brother, Mansa Musa, and told Mansa Musa, if I don't return in 1 year, then you can be the king. You could sit on the throne. And sure enough, Mansa Musa kept his word. And a year later, Mansa Musa was crowned king in Mali. Now, in the meantime, Abu Bakari arrived among the Olmec. And within a few years, guess who was crowned king at the Olmecs? Whoever you are is what you are. The planet is our home. It doesn't matter where you are. Don't say that you would be better if you were in such and such place. You are at home in your planet. And wherever you are, whatever is yours will come to you as long as you keep yourself well aligned with who you are. And to me, that's one of the lessons that I've drawn from listening to Queen Diambi. So she went everywhere, and everywhere she found herself, she found her people, she found her family, and she assumed responsibilities. Hello, title don't mean I've become chief and I can tell you what to do. Titles mean we have more responsibility than the other one who may not have any title or not recognized title. Everybody has a title anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But we could see that wherever you go, whoever you are, once you assume who you are, against all odds, assume, be yourself. And once you are yourself, everywhere you go, it will be evident to everyone else, and whatever is yours will come to you. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Thank you very much for it's another thing is very clear. Yes, our queen is of mixed parents, parents from different backgrounds, but she doesn't have any I'm confused, I don't know where, you know, she's clear. I'm an African woman. She does not let, you know, whatever happened to bring her here make her doubt as to who she is. She just assume who she is and then assume the responsibilities that go with whom she is. And those are lessons that all of us in our daily lives need to be clear on. If you find there's a lot of confusion in your life, the bottom question is, are you not confused about who you are? So once you're clear on who you are, then where you are and what you're doing, everything falls into place. Remember our poem, freedom is being shackled to identity. Shackled. So once your identity is clear, setting up purpose becomes, well, we won't say it's easy, but it's certainly not complicated. So we can set up purpose and then be clear on directions. And the part that I love most, being in constant pursuit. There is no I have arrived. Wherever you are now is not where you want to be tomorrow. So you have to have another purpose to fight for, to go for. And remember, collective purposes are the best. You work at them eternally. There is no stopping you. Even death don't stop us. Whatever Queen Diambi, her grandmother, didn't get done, Queen Diambi here in our presence will get done. And before she leaves the planet, she will have other purposes, other goals set in front of her that whoever is coming 2 generations, 3 generations down will have to realize. That's a very important point for us to keep in mind. And that's why it's so important to be clear on traditions and on families. Every generation live unfinished business. And so each new generation, progress is when new generation pick up unfinished business from the old, accomplish them, finish them, and then set up new ones. But if you come up and say, well, the ones before me, they failed, they didn't understand, they did this, they did that, here is what I'm gonna do. Well, if you didn't take care of any unfinished business from those behind you, who do you think is gonna finish your business? It won't be done. So we have to always, that's why it's so important for us to know what happened in the past, so we can pick up unfinished business, unaccomplished goals, unaccomplished purposes. Get them done. It is when you accomplish that which was set before you, you become qualified to set your own objectives in front of you. I really appreciate our queen telling us responsibility is what the queendom is all about. And it's a queendom of people, not things, not land, not rivers, not armies, a queendom of people. Just imagine, think about it. I hope we will have many questions about this when we open up for questions. But right now, let's go back and remind you about how to contact Fondation Félicité. And I have to say, this is Desaline's birthday. I haven't received even, I have received less than 50 emails. I don't understand. People say they are part of a community and I haven't heard anything. So, Fondation Marie-Claire Rose Félicité Bonheur Dessalines on Facebook. Also on Twitter, also on Instagram, Fondation Félicité. Our official Bayyinah, that's the concentration this now, is getting the Bayyinah Bello channel off the ground and preparing an eventual opening. But to do that, we need for you to subscribe. So please subscribe and invite your friends and family to subscribe. Thank you. And to contact us by phone, you could use WhatsApp 509-2940-0869. And the website is www.fondationfelicite.com. And to participate in the work, to support us financially, pour fondationfelicite@gmail.com. Thank you very much. Let us go back to our queen. May I ask you to tell us your full name, please, Queen? We don't see all of it. Oops. You are on mute, maybe? We don't hear you.
Okay, sorry. Yes, I was on mute. So my full name is Diambi Kabatusuila Tshiyamba Mukalenga Mukaji wa Nkashama wa Bakwa Luntu wa Luba wa Kasaï wa Congo. So
all right. Those of you who are saying, you can't even say Empress Marie-Claire Rose Félicité, you can say Marie-Claire Rose Félicité Bonheur Dessalines. Now I want you to repeat this.
So I explained earlier that my name is Diambi. In our tradition, everybody had their own name. So Kabatusuila is it's actually Wa Kabatusuila is my father. Tshiyamba is the lineage of kingship that I come from. Bakwa Luntu is the Luntu people, and I actually took away the clans that I come from, the Bena Tshiyamba and the Bakwa and the Bakwa Indu. So 3 clans that are forming, my identity on my father's side. So that I could even add to that name. So this is all basically explaining my credentials. It's my name and my credentials. And the Luba is a big ethnic group in Africa, in Central Africa, but we are also in South Africa, since the Zulu are descendants of the Luba, the Bemba tribe, the Emba, all of these are Luba people in Angola, in Zambia, in Tanzania. And we have also some Luba in Namibia and South Africa. So this is really so people can understand my whole lineage and the origin. And of course, Congo is the basin of Congo, and today is the Democratic Republic of Congo mainly, but we have also the Congo Republic, we have Gabon, we have Cameroon, we have Angola, all that used to be part of the greater Congo basin and what we called back then Congo Diantotila. And Congo Diantotila was a confederation of different kingdoms, that were having good relationships with each other and so forth. So this is basically my name. And Diambi means two things, because our names I usually have several layers to them in the significance. Diambi is the storyteller. That's the first degree. It's a person that tells beautiful story. It's also used to be the person that would go from village to villages to bring the news from, you know, what happened on the other side, who was born, who died. So that was kind of like the CNN person. So it's a person that, you know, people are awaited with a great expectation and anticipation, because once a Diambi came into the village, well, it was festive, because now we were going to be entertained with beautiful stories and also the news. So that's the first degree. The second degree, it's the bearer of good news. So the one who comes and comes to manifest good news, because your name is a promise. So when you were named with that name, it's in case in the name is a promise that you are born to manifest. So this is why Diambi is my name. Kabatusuila is not my name. Kabatusuila is the name of my father. That was his name when he was born. So in our tradition, we don't take on a last name that is our father's name, because that's his own manifestation. That's his own mission statement. So my name is Diambi. That's my mission statement, but it's attached to Kabatusuila because of the colonizers who forced people to have last names, because they had to track people this way. But in our case, we don't have last names, but now because we have been colonized, now we take the last name of our father. But that was his own karma. That was his own mission. And so I'm Kabatusuila. So I'm from him, but I am not him. So the last degree, to a certain extent, is the fact that I'm a mediator. And this is one of the reasons why I explain why that I'm a woman, and also I'm a mixed, and I'm sitting on the throne that is traditional throne that has been there for hundreds and hundreds of years and several generations. And I had to ask those questions, because I said, why me? Why don't you pick somebody that's more authentically African than me? I mean, I'm mixed, and plus I'm a woman. So being a storyteller and then the next level is a mediator. So to be a mediator, you have to have a deep understanding of the protagonist or the antagonist, I would say, of the two sides of a particular issue. And I think that, you know, this is one of the reasons why the elders and ancestors identified me, because I had the extensive understanding of what it is to be African, because I embraced my Africanness from the time I was born. I never thought of me as any other thing. And also I understand the Western culture very well, because I was raised by a Western woman. I was raised by a European woman. Yes, she was understanding of the African culture, but she was from where she was. And so understanding being raised in a Western paradigm, and all of us are, by the way, even in Africa, 100% pure Africans are raised in the Western paradigm. So they are imbued with a lot of the Western culture standards. So it doesn't take necessarily to be physically mixed to be a mixed person. Okay.
Absolutely.
So, yes. So yes, I have understood. I understand the language. I understand the process, the way they think, or the way they process information. I understand some of their fears and some of the neuroses, and so I think that we need, from what they explained to me, they needed somebody to be a mediator, somebody to be in between, somebody to sit on an in-between throne where you are well versed into understanding the realities on the ground for African people, because you are one and you live one, but you are also versed to understanding the mentality of the people, the cultures, not necessarily the people, but the cultures that inflicted so many, painful experiences to the African people, and why it's going on and how we can address that. Because although we have to work on ourselves and know who we have to be and fight to become ourselves, as I said earlier, when Mama Queen Mother asked me what I thought about tyranny, and I said, well, it's a perpetual, it's a perpetual thing. It's never going to just stop. It's not because we're pushing this way that the opposing side is not going to push this way. So it's going to be a constant, quest to get our freedom, or to feel free, to develop that sentiment within us. So we have to understand how they work, how that works. And we also have to understand what is it that we can do to act in that environment as well, because the change has to come from both sides. If change only happen in one side, it's gonna find itself with the same resistance, with the same, tyranny and tyranny pulsions. So we have to act on that. So my name, a mediator, this is what I do. I want to go and meet people of all origin. I don't care who you are and how you look. I also have the deepest understanding that originally everyone is African, because we all lived in Africa for 3/5 of our existence as human Homo sapiens sapien. According to the science, we are about 200,000 years of this type of manifestation. So 200,000 years, we lived 130,000 years only in Africa. There was no Homo sapiens sapien out of Africa before 70,000 years ago. So 3/5 of our lives, we lived in Africa. So if a man who is already in his 60s, leave a place, you can't call that place a cradle. That's not a cradle. You didn't leave there as a baby. You left there as a fully blown human, being, and with a body of experience, of wisdom and knowledge that will allow you then to go to the conquest of the world and be able to establish colonies of the human family everywhere in the world. But you had to leave with your luggage full of tools that were developed on the African continent. So Africa is the mother, no matter how we put it, no matter how you look, how blonde or green eyes you have, or slanted eyes, whatever it is, you are originally from Africa. And maybe the distance from the origin has caused some alteration in your consciousness or in the way you conceptualize life on the planet. But we have seen now where that leads, because we have a lot of inconsistencies that are revealed every other day about the choices that we made with the Western civilization and the damage that it causes, in so many different layers of existence, including our environment. So it's clear that the African people have a responsibility, to step in and to reconnect with who they are, not just because of them wanting to be themselves and be African, but because of the responsibility that has been bestowed upon them by being the elders of humanity, so that they can bring about the good news and say, listen, we have a way to solve this. We have a way we can change the paradigm. And we have to bring all those tools that our ancestors left behind for us, so we can bring that to manifestation. We can raise our consciousness, and we can also help others raise their consciousness. Because although African people have always vibrated at a much higher vibratory frequencies, and this is clear, it's demonstrated by science, we still have to work with others, because others are part of our family, and we still have to see in what way we can help. So help ourselves first, because it starts from us, but then we have to understand that we are of service. If we do this for ourselves, is to serve our communities, is to serve our families, our loved ones, is to serve our country, is to serve the humanity as a whole.
Thank you. We are of service. Let us all say this. We are of service. We are here to serve. Wonderful. Thank you very much. Well, I think we have reached a point, but before we open up for everyone to exchange with you, how do you view yourself 25 years from now?
I view myself as a person who will have had a tremendous influence to promote the understanding that African immaterial heritage in our culture is one of the most precious gifts we have, is one of the most potent resource we have for transformation on this planet. And I will have worked on many different projects, as I'm doing now, putting a smile on every face that comes across my path, and making people, doing my best to have people experience what I do experience in myself. It's the connection with Muchima. Muchima is the heart in my language. It means the heart, but it also means it's the siege or the seat of the divinity, the divine energy of the entire cosmos is contained into Muchima. And this is why we always long to find a spiritual path, because we always long to reconnect with that essence of our divinity. And so my work, I see when I'm successful, because I am already, because I'm here, I will continue to promote, the understanding of the African, culture and tradition and knowledge and wisdom, because I really find those to be fundamental into our ability to connect with that principle of beingness. Beingness, Ubuntu, beingness. I am because you are. So once I can have enough people to work with me and to work for, because I am there to help others accomplish their mission too. I want to become in 25 years, people would say, well, Queen Diambi, you've been a great partner into developing this, this new paradigm and this new manifestation where we have more peace, more love, and definitely prosperity for most, rather than prosperity for only few as it is now.
Thank you very much. But there's one more question.
Okay.
Actually, presently, Congo is going through a very hard time. Our people there are suffering. There is a war. There is all kinds of threats to people's life, livelihood, and peace. How do you see this situation, and how can we help?
Yes. Well, Congo has been at war for the past 5 centuries almost, since 14 something. We've been warring. And although it seemed like, we're only getting the news now, but we've been fighting ever since the invasion of the Western powers. Congo people are very feisty. They are very determined to regain their sovereignty. And therefore, that's why you see a lot of things happening in the Congo. Congo is also, for other reasons, a very, very energetically charged environment or land. Congo is the heart of Africa, and it's really the heart of this planet. And it's also the basin of Congo with the Great Lake region is also where we saw the birth of humanity. So there is something very sacred and very precious about the Congo. And I'm not surprised to see that Congo has been the victim of a lot more, predatory practices and behaviors to tame that leopard spirit, to tame that Congo spirit. Let's not forget, Congo is the home of the leopard. Even all the great pharaohs that we so know and admire were all initiated into the order of the leopard. So the leopard, of course, in the symbolism, in the totemism of the leopard is a person or a people that are very patient, that observe, but that are never give up the fight. So Congolese people are indeed fighting. And if there is wars in Congo, let me tell you this, it's not about the Congolese people. The Congolese people have lived with each other for thousands of years. All kinds of people have passed through that area. They have established communities, they have established villages and kingdom, and it's really a land that welcomes people. And our parents are in the forest. The Twa people are the parents of humanity, and they are there. So this is really something that we have to understand on the symbolic level of what Congo represents. And to my own understanding, I learned a lot about the rebellions and the revolts of people who were enslaved, of the captive of Africa. And everywhere I looked and every research I've made, there was always Congolese people in the mix to say, to call people to rise against oppression and to rise against tyranny. So we are a mighty people, and we are, of course, very diverse. Congo is not just one type of people. We are very diverse, but there is an energy in the Congo, an energy of renewal. So I am not surprised that people are really going hard on the Congo, and we know that there's practices like predatory practices that promote, guerrilla wars, where we just use the poverty of the people to arm different factions of basically gangs to ensure that there is chaos happening in particular regions. And you will understand that those regions are always very rich in minerals. And those are where you're going to see conflict. You're never going to see conflict where there's nothing to be exploited.
That's right.
So the conflicts are only, for some reason, between the people who live on lands under which there is immense resources to be exploited by the multinational, corporations. So when we think about the warring things that are going on in Africa, there is really different scenarios. There are the scenarios of people, fighting for their lives, because we have been invaded, a couple of centuries ago, and people are still fighting today for the sovereignty of Africa. We have the example with Mali, where they just had a coup not so long ago to restore the power to the people, because most of the leaders, unfortunately, maybe willingly or unwillingly, because I'm not going to criticize any African leader, because I know that sometimes both hands are tied in the back, or else, they find their way to the grave prematurely. So I'm not going to be here to criticize any African leader, because I don't know all the realities that they have to deal with. But we know that a lot of pressure are put by the Western powers in order for the interest of the Western nations to be served, rather than for the interest of the people of the continent to be served. But things are changing. And I think that the youth, and there is a rise in consciousness again, and not that it has stopped, because we never stopped, we're still fighting. And we're going to just see more and more waves of people pushing against tyranny. And once we push against tyranny, the reign of peace will definitely be manifested on the ground. So we see a good opportunity for the children of the diaspora, the historical diaspora like yourself and all the other ones, some of the other ones that are online, to now put the experiences together, consolidate the African expressions from all over the world, so we can come as one. Because we understand that the necessity of the situation is that if Africa doesn't make it, no African in the world will. And if no African in the world make it, Africa will not make it. So our destiny is entangled completely. And we have to get to that understanding to realize that once we pull our expressions of the African experience in the diversity that it has expressed itself throughout the world, we can gain so much understanding and so much strength to overturn the tides against Africa that has been lifted 3,000 years ago. It is a process. I respect the process, because I am not in the divine mind. There is always a reason why things happen the way they do. And if I look at you all, I see you as beautiful manifestation of all the seeds that have been taken from Africa, of our people, and you seeded the planet once more. Just as our ancestors left 70,000 years ago, maybe you needed to be taken to be reseeding the world with the substance, the essence of what Africa really is, and that's Ubuntu. So I cannot know the plan of the universe, but one thing for sure, what I see, the manifestation of what I see, I am grateful to have you now with what your collective experience can bring to the continent. And I am enriched by your experience, by your presence, by your expressions, and all of you have made me a wealthier queen because of your input into my life.
Thank you very, very much, Queen. And without further ado, I know they can't wait to start exchanging with you. So Franz, it's in your hands.
Thank you,
thank
Mama.
you. Yes, thank you, Professor Bello, and thank you so much, Queen Diambi. Your words are very powerful, very inspiring. I like to think of myself as a storyteller also. I'm an author, I write and publisher, so I share stories about the history of IET, and I believe that's in my spirit. I believe that's, maybe I'm a Diambi too,
yes,
Diambi.
Yes.
So thank you so much for everything that you've been sharing. And what we're gonna do now, we're going to open up the webinar for questions from our audience. So for anyone who has a question for Queen Diambi, please locate the raised hand button on your screen or on your laptop or on your computer, and then you'll be able to be in the queue, and then I can choose you for your question. All right, and if for some reason you're in a noisy area, you could maybe send me your question in the chat. and I'll be able to ask Queen Diambi your question. Okay, so first, let's go to our first question, which comes from Charlene. Charlene Amin. You can go ahead, unmute, ask your question, please.
Oh, wow. Good afternoon, and thank you. I'm so emotional. You don't know. Oh, my God. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ma Bella, Queen Diambi, and to you, my brother, Franz. I have two questions about food and water. Through one of our native brothers that they call Indians, but I don't like to say Indians, I've come to learn that water has memory, and it can help us to tap into who we are, to remember who we are if we ask it. I was just wondering, my dear Queen, if you had any knowledge on that you could share, like how I could access, you know, that part of the water and like tune into it.
Yes, absolutely. Water, in our tradition in Africa, we know everything is imbued with beingness, with the essence of life. So water is actually for us a body that came to seed this earth so that life could manifest. So we are, as I said earlier, I don't know if you were there when we were pouring the libation, but we start everything with water. So we always pour libation, and we always use water as a very sacred sanctuary. So things we can talk to water, we can ask water for counsel, we can transform our life because of the water that we are really a big bubble of water. If we know our body structure is really 75% of water, so we are a bubble of water walking around, and our planet is a bubble of water floating in the cosmos. Okay, so water is definitely something that we resonate with, and our ancient ancestors knew about it very from the very beginning. We have cut ourselves off from nature, and this is why we are clogged. We don't hear nature speak to us. When we say, oh, we pray, but we don't listen and we don't hear. But the rituals of water is very simple. There is nothing mystical about it. Even science now that is analyzing the behaviors of water realize that when you deal with water and you speak to water a certain way and you analyze the crystal formation, if you spoke harmonious and kind and loving words to that water, the water will retain the information and then will manifest, the intention through a design, a sacred geometric design, to have a dialogue and say, yes, I am pleased, I am honored, I'm content, and I can heal. And the opposite is also true. We know that water records every other information. All the waterways of the planet are, connected with each other. Water is connected all throughout this planet. And every event that happens is recorded into the water. And because every event produces a vibration, every word produces a vibration. And all this system is a vibration system. When you study now, they start to study the string theory. Oh, now we understand it's vibration. Our ancestors had all that down pat way before and beyond, things that I cannot even start to explain. So water is a very important element that if you want to use it for healing, first of all, you are water yourself. When you know who you are, you have to be kind to yourself. You have to speak to yourself in a kind way. You are a sanctuary. I spoke about Muchima, that heart that you have that pumps that water into your entire river system, which is your arteries. That's a river system, and you have that power to invoke or evoke, the waters within your own space, and to ask and pray for harmony, for healing, and for balance in your life. Of course, the water outside of you is also important. You can take some water, you can pray over it, you can use it for a ritual bath. And what's a ritual bath? It's not anything that you have to dance naked under the sun, under the moon, in some wooden place with dancing with the wolves. No, you can just have it and pray over it and put your hands and pray and send your intention and speak your intention to that body of water, and then you can bathe yourself in it, and you can do all kinds of things. And libation, as I said, is a very, very potent process. Libation is to ground yourself. after you do what Queen Mother showed us today, the breathing, connecting with the first breath, because we will have a last one. So always being conscious that so long as that breath is circulating, that there is life, there is responsibility, there is action to be carried. But then you can take the water and pray over the water as we prayed, and pour the libation and place your intention into the water. So I believe the same as I said earlier, when the people left Africa, they left to colonize the planet, and they called themselves indigenous, Indian, or whatever, but they didn't leave Africa empty-handed. After three-fifths of your life has been lived in Africa, they came with all that in the bags of tricks when it comes to how we converse and how we deal with the universe and existence itself. So that was one of them.
Wow, thank you, bless you. And my second question was about food. Now, I find around my home now, food is starting to fall a lot. Like, if I'm taking food out, something will fall. And growing up, my grandmother would say, like, if something falls, like food, like the ancestors may feed it or something. But I don't know, like, how to do that. Is that really a thing, like, to feed or to honor the ancestors? How do I do that?
I think, you know, the universe sends us signs, and in Congo and in Africa also, we do usually before we eat, we take symbolically a small plate, and we put food on the plate. We put some water. We go outside. We pour the water and we pour the food, and this is just a symbol to show that we are grateful. We are grateful that we are living this life, thanks to all the ones who have come before. So it's another ancestral reverence practice that is just bringing you to focus and be grounded in who you are, because your ancestors are your ground. You know, you came from, I just give an example, 400 years of you know, before you, there was 4,028 people in order to make you, just you. So 4,000 in just 400 years. I'm not counting 200,000 years, but in 4,000 years, 400 years, it took 4,000 people. So you can exist. I'm counting your 2 parents, your four grandparents, and then we can keep on going. So it took 4,000 people to just make one of you. So imagine what you are, a collective of all these 4,000 people just for 400 years. I'm not even counting before. So imagine by doing that, by grounding yourself, by doing what we call an anchor in psychology. An anchor is a gesture and living, embodying an attitude of reverence. What kind of resonance can that bring to your entire being when you connect with that principle of all these people that have come before you? So just 400 years, 4,000 people. Keep on counting, and you will see how many people it took just to make you.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Charlene, for your question, and thank you for the amazing answer, Queen Diambi. We go to our next question from Celine. Celine Leduc. You could go ahead, unmute yourself, and ask your question, please.
Oh, hello, and thank you so much, Queen Diambi, also Fran. Can you hear me properly?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. And also Bayyinah, I really appreciate what you said. You're such a beautiful spiritual storyteller in person. I have a question about, I was told by a First Nation person who was Algonquin many years ago that my house was the house of the cat. My spirit guide is the black cat or the panther. I got to know that the snake, I know who the snake is. It's about Dambala, which is knowledge, which is not a problem. But, and also the 2 of them get together. I want to know, if possible, how do I honor my spirit guide, the black cat?
So I think we embody all the energy that is outside of us, but we do have dominant forces, dominant dominant vibration, I would say. And yes, if an elder from a community here saw in you the spirit of the black cat, or the spirit of the feline spirit, like the one I have right here, you have to start looking at the characteristics that we human beings associate with these animals. You're going to see the characteristic they have on the positive, and you have to take a look at the characteristic they have on the negative. Because our ancestors, when they paired up archetypes of behavior or characteristics, they picked and they look and they observed nature. And they saw in nature all the message of the cosmos, imbued in every aspect of nature. So we get our information not by revelation. Revelation doesn't exist in Africa. We don't have such thing as you just sat there and poof, something was revealed to you. It doesn't work. If it does, then everybody needs to receive the same revelation. And if not, well, you're gonna have to go see a doctor, okay? So everything we know about ourselves, we learn from observing the blueprint of that the creator left behind, and its nature. So you have to look at that spirit. What's a cat like? What are the good things about cat? What are the things that are criticized about cat? But in our traditions, and you will see the different attributes of the cat, and then you can associate yourself with those attributes and see how those attributes are relevant in your character. And if they're not there, how can you develop those characteristics? How can you develop, let's see, feline is very subtle, very flexible, very agile. Are you agile? Are you flexible? When you have a challenge in front of you, when you have people who are challenging your ways or disagreeing with you, how do you behave? Are you behaving, flexibly, or are you stern? Are you rigid? So all these attributes are maybe attributes that you need to call into your life to manifest them. So those animal totem come with a great body of knowledge about the ancestors observing these animals and their behaviors and some of their patterns and how they look, and have devised a set of observations and wrote them down, or put them down in their traditions. And you can then learn to embody them, or you naturally embody them. So that's what I would say. You can definitely, pray to that spirit of the leopard, because I have to pray. And when I pray is again a very Western centric word. So we're using a Western language, but I have to invoke, the vibration of the leopard spirit, of the leopard, of the reality or the matrix coordinates that made leopard manifested. So I can be imbued with the same kind of attributes, positive attributes, in order for me to carry my mission.
Thank you so much, Queen.
I hope that answered your question a bit. Thank you.
It answered a little bit, and it also made me aware that whenever I get into a fight, let's say I'm on the side of First Nation or on the side of people from Haiti, if I ask my spirit guide, my beautiful cat, and if I don't get afraid of the snake, and understanding that it is all about knowledge, we win together.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, my God.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Celine. Thank you for the question. All right, let's go ahead to the next one from Diana. Diana Revalus. Go ahead, unmute, ask a question, please.
Revalus. Hi, guys. Hello, both queens. How are you? And it's a pleasure to speak with you and meet everyone. I have a question okay. So a lot of things, and even hearing you or even learning about Bayyinah personally, I would like to talk to speaking to yourself and the things you do to yourself that are invoking that we're not listening to. Like, I work with clay, just realizing talking to you, using the clay pot, clay and water. I mean, water and earth is clay. That's the embodiment of the two. It's strongest when they're combined and it's not dry and just earth. For example, as a child, my family had a name for me, but it was Diana Jessica Sinette Marie Millette Revalis. And that's supposed to be my full name, right? But it actually embodies my mother's name, her middle name for me, her name, and then my name around it. My daughter was named kind of in the same manner. These links of doing things, but not getting the connection of what you're doing. just the other day, and recently I have even realized like I'm in a lot of leadership position, but I'm actually like attesting that word even leader. And I posted, I was like, I'm a civil servant, I'm a community or civil servant, but the leader is in you. And hearing you even say I'm a leader, I'm a queen of people. And how do you pay attention to the oracle of self? How do you, because a lot of this embodiment, even if I was told that I'm followed by Legba, but I know I've called myself the Phoenix. No one's ever given me the Phoenix. I just know for myself, the Phoenix embodies me. Like, how do you really pay attention to those things that you're calling, that something about you is already telling you who you are? Let's go. Because so much of speaking or hearing it again, it's like confirmation, your confirmation. Right? Lion has been confirmation in a soul that this has said, no, that's not right.
Yes, thank you, my dear, for your comment and your question. And I would just say the same as I said before, is that introspection is the beginning. It's when you start, introspection means asking question about self. You know, who am I? What am I like? What's my experience? And it's you know, it's not given to everybody. Everybody is not in a stage of spiritual development when they can be honest enough, sorry, and courageous to start asking question about self. And when you do these introspection, of course, there is you realize that within you, there is a being. There is a being within you. Right. There is an observer of you. When you think, you can realize that there is someone within you that is watching that process, is watching the process of thinking, is watching the process of you living. So that is our higher self. When you have already this kind of, this kind of manifestation where you asking those questions, when you want to know, when the mundane or very pragmatic life is not sufficient for you anymore, that means that you hit a wall of consciousness. Now you have to go beyond that wall so you can advance to a higher degree of consciousness, so you can really have a better scope to understanding the amplitude of your beingness. Okay, we are multidimensional beings. We are so much more than what we think we are, what this reality is showing us that we are. Our ancestors understood that very clearly, and they wrote a lot of material, and they've devised a lot of rituals in order for us to re-anchor ourselves to that understanding that we are multidimensional beings. And when we say multidimensional beings, it's not just the fact that we have different attributes and characters, it's really physically multidimensional. We don't even know how far that goes, because the Western science have yet to come close to tapping into those reality, because they are very limited to the fact that you can only do any scientific processes with the thing that you see around you. You cannot do scientific processes with things that are not observable with our five senses. So when we know that we are beyond those five senses, we have so much more tools to tap into the reality that is beyond what can be measured with our five senses, then it's a voice inside of you that will push you to continue seeking and continue seeking within. But when you start seeking within, you're going to also reach out. Remember, I talked at the very beginning, when there is a movement in, there is a movement out. So you have to go out as well. You know, finding yourself, it's not just by you meditating and just, sitting in the same posture for 60 days. This is not our philosophy. This is not how we work. We do have the moments of introspection because we are connected with nature. We are out there. We hear the birds. We hear the crickets at night. We hear the river flows. We are so connected with everything. That's when we used to be in our natural habitat. But now we have all these noise, all these stimuli that are bombarding us constantly, and it's very difficult to focus and put to isolate ourselves. But then what the other way you do it is you go out. When you have service, and when you come to that moment, when you have anchored yourself in that desire and profound will and intention to go to help another being, that already is a big open door to your multidimensional ability, multidimensionality. But when then you go and carry forth your mission, and you see manifesting in front of you these things, then you really reach what I call nirvana, because you see your capacity and your potency in making life better, in bringing joyfulness, in manifesting love, in helping people get out of trouble, get out of all these little things that we can do with each other are all things that are reinforcing our ability to connect with our multidimensionality. So spirituality for African people is not just within and with our rituals and with this and with that, and then it's all about us. This is very individualistic. So, you know, you can have, of course, your shrine, but a lot of the things that we do to enhance our consciousness is the things that you actually do in your community. How can you be of service? How can you help? If we didn't have a role to help others, we wouldn't be here. So the reason why we are here is to act as co-creator of reality. So this is where you connect with that.
May I just say that once again, that's what I mean by confirmation, because I'm second generation and being a civil servant. I was conceived in two parents that did this normally. I think my last name being revolution is a reason.
Mm-hmm.
And my father just recently passed, and I think my purpose even molded more once he properly passed the torch. It was given before, but it's almost like it had to be the way it needed to be for me to be, and if that makes sense. But again, in confirmation, because I was conceived in servitude. That's the only, I joke about our family's DNA, our blood type is C for community, and we don't know anything else.
Yes,
so
that is the fundamental, that is the fundamental element of Ubuntu. So Ubuntu doesn't only mean I am because you are. Ubuntu means beingness. So beingness is I am because you are.
Right.
You cannot exist outside of the reality of everybody's existence. And once you tap into that, and once you feed into making sure that other people's existence is pleasant, then you have enhanced your own Ubuntu. That's what I would say.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bayyinah. Thank you so much for your question. All right, let's go on. It's starting to add up, to pile up here, Queen Diambi. So, okay, Jocelyn, you could go ahead, unmute yourself, ask your question, please.
Hi, greetings, Queen Diambi.
Hi.
The question I want to ask is, can you explain about the language of light?
The language of?
Light.
Okay. Well, it's just interesting because I always use the expression, I send you love and light. And, you know, it's like, why do we refer to light, you know, as being, you know, something of a substance to be sending to people? And I would say, I would resume it to be the energy that we emanate. You know, I talked about vibration, but it could as well be light. Because what we see when the connotation of light for us is safety, is understanding, because when there's no light, it's dark, you can't see, you don't know, you are in doubt. So, you know, we have to use the word light and see all the things that light invokes in ourselves. So when you put the word light out there, what does that invoke in you? So the language of light is basically, for me, the same as, you know, the energy that you put out there. It's the intention that you put to manifest, you know, your desires and your desires for others. So the language of light for me is just basically your own energy and how you use your own energy to see and to place your intentions and to see that your intentions are manifested. So it's that you know, with our body, I think we generate enough electricity to light up a light bulb. I think that those experiences have been done. If I'm correct, you know, some of you are maybe scientists or engineers. You know about that. So we do generate energy, you know, and in all kinds of ways. I just was with a lady who spoke to me about a new product, okay, that is going to be like, you know, tiles, and those tiles would be connected some kind of ways to some, engineering stuff that I'm not going to go into detail. But any dancing that will occur on the floor with those tiles, the energy will be taken in order to create electricity. Again, this is not new. Our ancestors always known that dancing is not just for ourselves, but it also is a process to heal the damage that we cause to the planet by us being here, by the footprint that we leave behind. So in order to bring restoration to the planet, you have to align, and send to the earth the energy we take from the earth, from all the substance that we take away from the earth to feed ourselves. So it's a contract that we have with the earth to basically reinvigorate the earth with our own energy that she gave us and she helped us produce. So this is what light is. Light is energy. So we can use it to do things, to use a little engine to get ourselves going and thinking about what is it that I can do to manifest things out there. And light, when you do meditation, you can also imagine light of different colors and to heal yourself. So I've done that. I'm also a practitioner of complementary and alternative medicine, beside being a psychologist. And we use, what we call like an internal light therapy. So you can, scan your body mentally when you are in a relaxed and meditative state, scan your body, and then you can put light into all the areas of your body in order to identify if there's an imbalance there, and you can bring light into those places where you feel tight or where you have pain or where you have concerns, and then bring light. And you can also do it for other people. I'm a Reiki master. What's the Reiki? Reiki is energy. So we can send it to others as well as we can use it for ourselves. So this would be my take on it. I hope it answers some of your question. And, that's what I can say about it right now.
Thank you. That's very, very, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, next question comes from Janiqua. Janiqua, you could go ahead, unmute and ask a question, please.
Yes. Greetings, Queen, and
Greetings.
Mother Bayyinah. I am so grateful to just be able to listen and hear your story and learn more about you. I think I missed you last year in New Orleans. So I missed an opportunity to see you in person.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a question about crossing barriers and overcoming challenges between the diaspora, communicating and connecting with our people in the Congo. I was initiated to Ifa in the Yoruba tradition, as well as Afro-Cuban tradition through my Congo brothers in Cuba. However, my process and journey with the Yoruba was much easier because I learned that, the main barrier was that they spoke English. With the Congo, it was interesting because the barrier, I found that they spoke French. So it was like the same process. The traditions were very similar, but it was a language barrier there. So I actually visited the Congo last year, and I went to Brazzaville, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was peaceful, it was beautiful. But I wanted to know from you, what would be your suggestions as to overcoming challenges with the two different groups, the people of the diaspora and the people on the continent, overcoming these different barriers that we have?
Thank you so much for this very important question, because this is one of the main reason why I'm here in the Western world most of the time, and I do travel all over the world, and I work extensively in Africa as well. And this is indeed one of my main concerns. The main concern is how, I talked about Diambi being the mediator, how we create bridges, how we build, connecting points between the diaspora and Africa. So when I came into the United States, I realized indeed that there is a lot of division between, the different, population. First of all, we have to understand that there is a division on the ground already in Africa, because with the Berlin Conference, once they carved out, these countries that we know today, they made, they made nation states. We never had nation states in Africa. Before, we had what we call territorial states, which is depending on the population, your territory can expand or can contract depending on the people that are on your territory that you are managing. So we didn't have nation states. And now we didn't have borders. People could freely travel. People could freely engage in commerce between different tribes and different kingdoms. There was no such thing as passports and identity card or none of that. We had our names, and our names was valid enough to take us across, you know, the entire continent. And this is how we ended up going all the way down to the south to settle in South Africa, because those are still the Bantu people in South Africa, as we know. However, the division on the ground is very, very important. Also, if you heard me talk about the history of the Congo a little bit before, but the history of Africa, after the human trafficking era was over, colonization kicked in. And when colonization kicked in, one thing that was really paramount was that we had to forsake everything African about ourselves. That was what was encouraged during colonization, and in this process even continue now. So you're gonna find, for instance, in the Congo, you go to Africa, you're going to find a lot of people that are called the assimilated people. They want to be more westernized than Africanized or African. So they are more westernized people, and especially in the areas where they have intellectual elite, elites in the commerce and business, areas, and elite in politics, and elite in spirituality. So a lot of our elites in spirituality are all from foreign religion. They are not from African indigenous, spiritual systems. Very few. A lot of our elites politically, they're all in political parties and governance structures that were left there by the colonizers, and we just embody the colonizers' attitude, and we carry on, and whoever was on top acted almost like the colonizer, but with the black skin now. So we have a lot of inconsistencies right now in the continent. And it comes as striking when people who are here in the Americas go back to Africa to reconnect with that Africanness that Africans are fighting so hard to leave behind. Okay? So they look at you and they're like, but what is wrong with these people? They are all that we wish to become. They are Americanized, they are westernized, they are the black people who made it, and they want to come back and look like our ancestors. What is wrong with this picture? I had to undergo the similar process, because when I went and accepted the crown of my people, and when I went back to Kinshasa, the capital, people were looking at me like I was crazy. Like, what are you going to do with all this stuff? All these traditional things. My own father was almost, how would you say, like he was like kind of like uneasy to even put me through this, like, oh my God, she lives in America, I don't know if she's gonna accept this crap, this. He didn't accept it. He didn't want to wear a traditional crown and all that stuff. My father was like, listen, I'm a lawyer, I'm a professor, I'm an economist, I'm a diplomat, I'm a this, I'm a that. Those are the credentials that I accepted. But to say that, oh, I'm a traditional medicine man, or I'm a traditional king, or I'm a chief, this is like, of course, there are variations depending on where in Africa you are, because we were colonized by different people, and they use different tactics. But one of the main one was actually to dissociate ourselves as much as possible from our true identity. So that's the first hurdle, that when you go to Africa, you're expecting African to be all out there thinking about, oh, we are African, we're gonna reconnect with that. We have our African heritage, we have preserved it, and we have believed and carried on. You're going to be very disappointed. You go back to Africa, you're gonna find Africans that are more westernized than you are. So that's the first hurdle. The second one is, of course, the divide that was cultivated through the media. Growing up in Congo, most of the media that I saw coming from the United States or from the Americas were media that portrayed African people here, or black people, because we didn't even know they were African, because they didn't call them African back then. They said those are the black people that live that are in America. Many people in Africa still don't know that a lot of the black people here are not indigenous to here, because the story I told you earlier were completely cut out. And I can always tell you more about that. But nevertheless, we saw Black American as being people who were indigenous to the continent of America. We didn't even see the rapport between them and us, except that they had the same color. So we looked at those Americans as being closer, like white people. Matter of fact, they may even call you white when you go to Africa. I have friends of mine, they call them white people because it's not the color, is the behavior, is the culture. So when I grew up in Africa, all we saw on TV was either you were criminals, drug addicts, gangsters, and prostitutes, and maids, and crooks, and that was basically the only image that we saw of what Black people were doing in the Americas, mainly in the United States, because those are the products that are pushed in Africa. Then we saw few exceptions, and the few exceptions were the athletes and the entertainers. We never saw a Black scientist. We never saw a Black professor. We never saw a Black doctor. And any doctor that we had an idea that was living in America and being a Black doctor were doctors that came from Africa, went to the United States, studied, and became doctors. We never looked at anything and never saw anything of elite or, you know, high achievers of the African people here in America, except for athletes and entertainers. So most of our ideas were being in America with African or with Black people is dangerous because they are hostile people. They are dangerous people. They are criminals and they go to jail and they kill people, they rob people, they use drugs, they sell drugs, and they prostitute themselves, and this is who they are. This is the image that came across. Of course, I grew up in the 70s, so it's maybe now with the internet, things have changed a bit, but I still believe that the great lines are really still, portraying the same narrative. So we imagine that the Americans, either you go in America and you meet those great Americans that are like the Carl Lewis, the Michael Jackson, the Michael Jordan, or you better be careful because they're gonna go after you. And you, on the other hand, when I came here, I learned that the Africans that you see on the television and portrayed in the media are the starving African, are the diseased African, are the violent African, savage, cutting each other in pieces with machetes and things like that. So you have also a vision of Africa that's completely incorrect. Everything that you see of Africa is slums and dirt and famines and people with flies over their faces and babies with big belly. So that was the image of most people that I met from Africa. So when I came here and I decided to connect because I find an attraction to connect with my people, like Mama Queen Mother said, I was just attracted to connect. And then when I realized the treasure that we are missing out by not understanding the cultures of the people of the African descent here and everything that they have accomplished and the expressions that they have come up with that are absolutely of an immense wealth that we cannot even qualify. So, and they also start to look at me and say, oh, you are a face of an Africa we didn't know. So it was an exchange. So the hurdles are about, of course, passing over that the media and the images that we have and understanding where we come from, understanding what are the fundamental ideas that we have forged because of being exposed to the wrong information for so long. You know, here I connected with a lot of African people that were absolutely amazing, brilliant, inspiring, and more than less. So when I look across the board, the people that I met, and I look at all these communities all over the world of African descendants, the excellence is beyond my imagination. And when I talk about excellence, I talk about excellence in character. I don't talk about excellence in material possessions or fame or so forth. I talk about excellence in character. It's absolutely amazing to see that all these communities have preserved some very, very strict guideline about character representation and behavior. And that is, for me, one of the biggest treasure of Africa is the Mahat. The Mahat, those laws laid by our ancestors to preserve and to always act in character. So how do we do this? We continue to push for people to, like you and me, to have dialogues, for me to go in the world, for you to come to Africa and to come back and to say, this is the Africa that I've experienced, and this is all the challenges that they have, and this is what we can do to help. As Mama asked me earlier, what we can do for the Congo. Well, you can do for the Congo to become a better person, because you know what? Once you're a better person, you'll figure it out. You'll do something magnificent that children in the Congo will look at you and say, wow, I want to be just like that. or you can go to the Congo, you can teach, you can help, you can do all kinds of things. But the Congo is not a place. Africa is not a place. Africa is this. We can always help Africa no matter where we are. So once we do get ourselves back on track, and we are doing so, it's a process, well, we have helped Africa. So this is what I would say. Go outside of your comfort zone, ask questions, don't be afraid to break all those barriers of language, and all this is made only to divide us. Of course, I am promoting the idea that we will have to use one language that is going to be an international African language to communicate. And I believe that the African descendants, you are the most habilitated to make this change happen. Because in Africa, they're still bickering and fighting about, oh, should we use Yoruba? Should we use Hausa? Should we use, Kwasa? Should we use Swahili? Should we use this? Those questions don't have to be asked here, because in you have all these tribes. You don't have to worry about which tribe you come from. You are blessed. You come from all of them. You can pick and choose and throw and pick whichever one you want. You are a representative of Africa, the real Africa. This Africa that was envisioned by our forefathers to be manifested today. So you are already a representation of that. So we have to tap into that in order for us to break all these barriers and to decide to choose a language. And I believe Swahili is the language that should be chosen. I don't speak Swahili, I speak Lingala. I speak a little bit of Chiluba, which is my father's language. He did not teach me Chiluba because he was ashamed of his savage language. So I don't speak Chiluba because my father didn't teach me. But I understand and I speak it a little bit now that I'm queen. I'm starting to learn it on my own. But I speak Lingala perfectly because I grew up in Kinshasa, and in Kinshasa we speak Lingala. But I don't speak Swahili. But I realize that it's reasonable to choose Swahili. Why? For three reasons. Swahili is already an international African language because it's spoken into many different African countries. Second of all, Swahili is the widest spread spoken African language. It's spoken already, the greatest amount of population speaks Swahili already. Third of all, you have all the didactic material, easy to learn Swahili. You can put an application on and learn your Swahili. You don't even have to buy a book. Now Swahili is readily available. And I forgot there is a fourth one. Swahili is already used as an official language. So all the vocabulary we need to teach in universities, to write books, to explain complex ideas is already there. So why reinvent the wheel that we would have to reinvent the wheel for other African languages? Because the way they conceptualize life is just a little bit different. So we may have holes into some of the concept or some of the way that we express certain things because of the clash with the Western culture. So Swahili has already done the work. Why not use it? So I would definitely like to see promoted Swahili in the community of the African descendants, because I think that in Brazil or in Cuba or in Dominican Republic or in Haiti or in America, you wouldn't have a problem with speaking Swahili, because it's like, what tribe? It's not about tribe here. It's about we are from this expression of Africa. We can learn a language that we can communicate with each other. So I would be challenged to learn Swahili. I'm learning Chiluba and then I will be learning Swahili. So I would love to put a challenge out there to say, let's learn Swahili together. And like this, we would never have to use a foreign language to express ourselves and our identity and all that comes with it.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. I think we, once, that was the last question, right?
It wasn't the last question, but it is 3 p.m. So I wouldn't want to hold our guest a little longer than we have her scheduled for. So it's on Queen Diambi to see if she would like to answer a few more questions.
Well, I will answer 3 more. And I will be brief, a little bit more brief, but I will answer 3 more, because I know that I cannot maybe answer all the questions at this point. But if you have all the questions written for me, eventually I can always, have somebody on the line, like your friends, and maybe I can go briefly about taking a look at those questions. And why not making statements or something like that? We can figure out how we can do that.
Okay, very good. So what we'll do is we'll take 3 more questions, and for those who we don't get to, just send me a chat, and I'll save the chat, and then I'll write down the questions for Queen Diambi in an email. And once she's able to answer those questions, I'll share them with you guys. How's that sound? Okay, very